I used to love listening to the Conan the Barbarian soundtrack in the car on the way to footy because that would get me in the mood to, I'm going to kill someone today on the oval. Do you know what I mean?
Before we start this episode of Sports Legends with Bevo, a shout out to two of our sponsors, Ryan Bridges from Elders Galway and also Steve Chapman from Victor Harbour Motor Co. Make sure you see both those guys if you're looking to buy a car or buy a house or sell a car or sell a house. You'll see their details up on the screen now. Obviously, two local legends, so make sure you get behind them and really appreciate their support. Well, he's played 121 games for the mighty Port Adelaide Football Club and also been a recent Sandford coach. Jacob Surjan, welcome to Sports Legends with Bevo.
Thanks, Bevo. Thanks for having me on, mate. Long time coming.
Yeah, I know. It has been, hasn't it?
Yeah, I reckon you've asked me for the last 10 years. To pick me off.
Got you over the line eventually.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I've got plenty of time with my hands now, so I'm allowed to do as much as I want.
No, exactly. We'll start with that. So obviously, North Adelaide, you were the Sandford coach, the head coach down there. Before that, you were the reserves coach, took them to a premiership, the mighty Roosters. Tell us about that situation there when you found out the news about losing the head coach role and, yeah, I guess your reaction and how you feel about the whole situation.
Yeah, at the time, like I sort of been talking to Craig and Craig Burton, our CEO, for a while, especially at the end of last year, with what I wanted to do moving forward in my career. I knew I was out of contract. Everyone knew I was out of contract. So I was probably, what I'm really disappointed about is I said round 6 is probably not fair enough judgment in regards to this year. I was really committed to wanting to coach out the year. But the club decided they wanted to make a change. That's up to them completely. There's no animosity. I love the club. I think, I hope they do really well under Maisie this year. I hope the guys make finals and do all that sort of stuff and see how they can go. But I think I just, disappointment, a bit of shock in regards to the timing, which is probably a little bit unfair, but that's the ruthlessness of our business and our sport. And I'm totally fine with that and have accepted it. And I'll move on and look for better opportunities now moving forward.
That's a great attitude, mate. And no doubt, I'm sure you'll get some opportunities for sure.
Yeah.
Adam Hartlett, we both know well, really nice guy. For those people who don't know who that is, it's, of course, the brother of Hamish.
Yep.
And he's recently decided to take some time away from West Adelaide, doing it a bit tough. Do you feel as though there's too much pressure on coaches? And what can be done better, do you think, to help with the mental health of coaches, players, whatever it might be?
Yeah, I feel Adam's a really good young coach. Obviously, my wife's there as the president at the club. So I only found out last night when I saw the statement that was online that was going out, and really felt for Adam. He's a really good young coach, and I think, I think the clubs, SANFL and the clubs in general, can definitely do a lot more to support coaches. I probably didn't feel the grind as much at North, but, it does weigh on you when people talk about your job, especially on social media. The last probably 18 months, I've had guys slide into my DMs either on Messenger or Facebook and Instagram, ripping me and telling me to leave the club and getting stuck into me and stuff like that, which, you report that to the club, but what can they do? There's too many keyboard heroes around that can make comments, especially in guys to significant roles, which you think SANFL is a significant role, especially in Adelaide in regards to coaching. So people always want to have their say. They'll never come and do it to your face, which is, gutless part of things. So I'm sure I'd love to have plenty of conversations with North Adelaide people who have potted me either on Facebook or sent me a message or things like that, but they're not courageous enough to do that, and they never will be. And I really feel for Adam in that aspect, and I wish him all the best with his time away from the game, and hopefully he'll come back bigger and stronger. But I definitely agree that SANFL clubs need to do more to help senior coaches in regards to that, because too many blokes can write comments on Facebook and do all that sort of stuff and have got no idea and got no opinion on football whatsoever. Yeah,
well, because you played AFL as well. That was a while ago now that you finished up your career with the AFL, but did you cop it on social media as well back in those days, or has it changed? It got even worse now, do you think? Nah,
so the good thing about me is I finished in 2012 when Kenny sort of came in 2013, and I sort of missed that era of social media. So there wasn't, the mobile phones, cameras and stuff sort of coming out, I think, around that sort of time. So from my end, I missed a lot of that sort of stuff. So pretty happy. I'm sure people, the Port supporters, would have ripped me back in the day for a few things anyway. But I like to think not. But I think I'm lucky that I've missed that generation. The new generation that are coming through are copying a lot of abuse on social media and all that sort of stuff, which is really poor form. But that's the industry we live in. You've got to have thick skin these days. I like to think I've got pretty thick skin, and I think the last game I coached was against Sturton. I had a couple of the old fogies at North Adelaide ripping me about the way we're playing in the grandstand, and I walked over there and gave them a bit of the stare, and then they stopped. But then when you turn your back, they start ripping you again. So sums it up a little bit. But that's the industry. You got to imagine being Ken Hinckley in the situation that he's been in the last 4 or 5 years. Like, it's incredible what he's done for the football club, and a lot more needs to be done, especially in that space. But, as a coach, you've got to have really thick skin, and, that's just the way it is, unfortunately.
People forget that you're actually a human being as well, and Ken's a great example. Like, I have arguments with Port Adelaide supporters all the time about it, that my closest friends, are not fans of Ken, and they forget about what he's done for the club, like you said. But it's actually a human being, and he's got kids, and his kids cop it as well at school and that sort of thing. It's just horrible. So I think you're right. I don't know what the answer is, but they definitely do need to do more, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ken, being from South Australia, you can see, the scrutiny that he's put on and he's put under, 24/7, really. The 13 years that he's been at the club from where it was, and people forget 2012, like, they had the tarps on it, AAMI Stadium.
You were there, you played.
I was there, trying to play, and I was injured too much. But, I remember being there involved, and it was, the footy side of things, the players will play. Like, that was always good, but, all the other stuff was just horrible. And, Ken came in when we had the tarps on. I think we played 1 or 2 more years at AAMI Stadium, and then we moved to Adelaide Oval. But the crowds the next year, just having an influx of a new coach and new people. I remember the crowds that year at AAMI Stadium were huge, and that was because of what Ken brought to the playing group. And I think the next year they made the prelim final against Hawthorn, and they just lost. So incredible what he's done for the club. And, whatever happens, hopefully he sees the year out and does all the right things. But, he's just been an incredible ornament to our football club. And, it's been a pleasure to work under him for the amount of years that I did.
Yeah, well said. And let's go back to your own career. Like I mentioned before, 121 games. Where did the footy journey begin for you? Was it, and did your dad play footy, or brothers or anything like that?
No one played footy. It's an interesting one. A good family friend of mine, my best mate Lucas, his mum, I was playing school footy as a 12-year-old, I think primary school in WA, and never played footy, had no interest in footy. I was a basketballer, did athletics, did all that sort of stuff, and my best mate's mum said, "Oh, hey, like, why don't you let Jake play footy with the boys next year?" And she goes, "I watched one of his games, like, for the school, like," and he goes, "He was actually pretty good." And I was just like, I said, "Oh yeah, mum, like, I wouldn't mind playing footy, like, have a crack at it." And mum thought I was too small, and, not knowing, Croatian background, so not knowing too much about footy. It was either soccer or something else, non-contact sports. But my best mate Lucas and a heap of my friends were going to a public school, and I was going to CBC Fremantle, which is a private school where my brother Eric went. So I wasn't going to see those guys anymore. And I thought, Mum, this is a great opportunity. These guys are my best mates. Like, can I play footy? Just let me have a crack at it. And then signed up for Coburn Footy Club, under 13s, I think. And that year we went undefeated and won the flag. And it was incredible. It was a great experience in regards to playing footy in my first year. So I absolutely loved it, and just thought, why not keep playing footy from here on?
What was your position when you played?
I just played inside as an inside midfielder, and just tried to play on natural instinct. Wherever the ball went, I just chased it as hard as I could go. If it was on the floor, I tried to win it, and it just sort of came natural. Like, I was a West Coast fan. I loved Geelong back in the day. Freo wasn't around then, or might have just started. But yeah, I loved watching footy. I went to go watch the Eagles a few times, and, being at South Fremantle, we had the Jakovic boys, Peter Sumich, John Worsfold, the Matera boys all came from my club, and it's a fair crop, and I always looked up to those guys, and I was like, even Glenn Jakovic now is a family relative on mum's side of the family, and just to talk to him every now and then and see how he's going, and Peter Sumich I reached out to. John Worsfold's obviously back at the Eagles, and when we made our grand final in 2020 against Woodville, he actually reached out to me on the Monday before the grand final, and I thought that someone was taking the piss, and so I rang him and said, "Oh, who's this?" And he's like, "Oh, Surj, it's Woosha." I'm like, "Is this really John?" And he's like, "Yeah." A 5-minute conversation turned into 45 minutes about football and doing all this other stuff, and I was just like, "Wow, that was incredible." So, it's been a good journey, and I love footy. It's in my blood now, and something that I'd love to continue doing moving forward.
That's a great story, and so you said before you played for South Fremantle.
Yep.
So, How'd you end up playing there after Coburn? How'd that come about?
Yeah, so they like all SANFL clubs, they've all got their junior programs, and I can't remember what we used to call them, but I just went through the under 13s, 14s, and 15s, and sort of all the way through, and then under 16s had a carnival like they have here in South Australia, and then progressed in sort of the under 18s and played league footy there as a 17-year-old. So everyone asked me today, like South Fremantle's still my club. Like I'll be forever grateful for them picking me up to play. And we just had a good derby win. So they have the big derby, Foundation Day derby over there in WA yesterday. And I think South won by about 60 points. And one of my good mates, Craig White, who I'm a premiership player with in the under 18s, coaches the team now. So they beat East Freo, which is like the Port Nord type setup over here, like just hatred towards each other.
Yeah.
And people ask me now, like, oh, do you hate Nord? And I'm like, nah, not really. Oh, do you hate the Crows? Nah, no, I don't mind the Crows. Like, even when I was playing at Port, oh, well, who don't you like? And I say, I don't like East Fremantle. Like, East Fremantle is my most hated team. So, the last couple of years we've been really dominant against them. And Kari is an East Freo boy. So when we were at North together, we kept winning and I'd kept ripping into it.
Good banter, yeah.
So it's good banter. So, they're still my most hated club. So I'll forever be a South Fremantle boy. And, whenever I go back there's a little plaque and a little photo of me. I take the kids there and like, oh, Daddy, is that you? I'm like, yeah, that's Daddy about 20 years ago. So, no, it's good times. They'll forever be my club. I'm forever grateful for, everything they've done for me. And, it's just a special place in my heart that they have.
2004, pre-season draft.
Yep.
Number 10, Jay Surjan is called out.
Yep.
What was that feeling like knowing you're going to actually live your AFL dream?
Yeah, everyone gets that wrong. It was actually a 2003 draft, so it was before the year we won the flag.
Oh,
so
Wikipedia's incorrect.
I know, Wikipedia is incorrect. So
Sorry.
It was a 2003 draft, pick 10. I remember talking to Alan Stewart about a day before the draft because I was training with West Coast, so I missed the draft. I was devastated. John Worsfold rang me, said, mate, can't believe you haven't been drafted. Come train with West Coast. Yeah, incredible. And I remember, going to training, and then there's Ben Cousins and Daniel Kerr and Dean Cox now who's coaching Sydney, Chris Judd, and I'm thinking, wow, this is incredible. Like I trained with the Eagles for a month, and then Alan Stewart, who was the recruiting manager at Port, rang me up and, how you going? How's training going? Blah blah blah, and I'm just loving it. This is what I want to do. I said, I can't wait for the rookie draft to come. I'm going to go to West Coast. Oh, okay. Oh, you're going to go to West Coast? I said, yeah. They've already committed to me with their first pick, and they've told me that. Oh, okay, yep, no worries. And then didn't even get up for the draft. I think it was a Tuesday morning, and Mum's come into the bedroom yelling, you've been drafted. I'm like, oh, great, I'm going to West Coast. I've got to go training later. No, you're off to Adelaide. And I'm like, what? The Crows? She's like, no, Port Adelaide. I was like, oh, wow, okay. I didn't see that coming. And then Alan Stewart rang me up afterwards, said, yeah, mate, we were really disappointed that you didn't get drafted. We think you're good enough. We're going to give you an opportunity, come in and have a crack. And I was like, oh, thank you. So I was so grateful for the opportunity to go there. And then that afternoon, I went down to Cottesloe Beach with a few of my mates because it was about 40 degrees over in Perth. And I went to the Cottesloe Beach to hang out with my mates, and Choco rang me on the phone, and I'll never forget that conversation. Can't wait to have you here, and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it was incredible. And I think Port Adelaide still had a week of training. He said, Choco, I said, just chuck me on a plane now. I want to come over for the last 3 days. He's like, no, just enjoy your time with your family, and we'll see you when you come over in January. And I spoke to the fitness guys. They gave me a program and did all that sort of stuff. And I remember I worked my ass off for that 2 weeks before I got there, just to try to get myself to see some sort of standard that I could run at and be at when I got there, and hit the ground running. And incredibly grateful. It's changed my life, which has been great.
And do you remember your debut as well?
Yeah, I do. Essendon, round 1. Incredible. I think we won by 92 or 98 points or something. And my first shot on goal was playing as a small forward, pressure forward, and got snapped by Scotty Lucas. I was like, I was going to be one of those blokes who first kick, first goal, but no, got snapped and got blocked. But incredible, running out, huge crowd at AAMI. And just thought, this is great. Like, how good. Just loved the preseason, loved what it was all about, and just so grateful that the club would see me and give me the opportunity after not getting drafted, and then mid-season getting picked up in that preseason draft period, and then straight into AFL footy. Like, I was so grateful, and just a humbling experience.
So good. And how'd you settle in? Obviously, you're coming over to a new state as well. You knew Alan Stewart, but did you know many other people when you first arrived at Port?
Nah, so when I got drafted, I obviously spent Christmas here, and then Kari and Dom Cassisi, WA boys, came home for Christmas. So I'm actually met them for the first time at the Cottesloe Hotel, which was not a nightclub. It was like just a pub, but had a huge beer garden and everyone used to go on a Sunday. They had one of the best Sunday sessions of all time. So I caught up with them and had a few drinks for the first time and met them, and that was incredible because Kari had a reputation about him, especially on field, and I was like, I was nervous, and then didn't really know much about Dom, but they were from East Fremantle, I was from South Fremantle. It was a bit weird, but we had a few drinks and got to know them, and that was awesome. So just that sort of broke the ice for me straight away, but got put in with a host family, did all that sort of stuff, and it was incredible. I had, Bob and Daff, great people, and I was really lucky to be able to do that, and just got to training and started living the dream, I guess, and just really fortunate for the opportunity that Port Adelaide gave me, 22 years ago, I think it was, 23 years ago, whatever it's been. So it's been a journey.
The wife and the kids now, did you meet your wife in Adelaide, or was that WA?
Yeah, no, I met my wife in Adelaide. She's an Adelaide girl. She's been here for a long time. She's an outstanding woman. I'm a very lucky man to have a great support. I think, the wives or girlfriends of footballers, have to put up with a fair bit of crap in regards to what they do and what footballers, have to deal with. She's an incredible woman. She's obviously had her battles with health, with breast cancer and stuff like that, which she's got through and survived. And she started her own business in recruitment in that space as well. And
amazing.
She's an incredible woman. I'm so lucky to have such a great support in my life. And I definitely wouldn't have the successes that I've had in life if I didn't have her by my side. Your family are the same. They'll always support you, but to have a good woman like I've got is the number one thing in life. And I'm incredibly grateful that, she's been able to get through her health battles. So then, we can continue to live our lives together and support our children now. I've got a couple of boys and a little girl, and they're starting to get to that age where sport is life. And I'm becoming a sports dad and a dance mum and dad and all that sort of stuff. So, it's been pretty awesome. So I'm incredibly lucky.
Was it a funny story how you met your wife? Because I don't know if you knew this, but Jars actually met Maz, his wife, here, believe it or not, back in the day. This is actually a nightclub.
Was this a nightclub back in the day, was it? Oh, wow. We were talking about it off air. It's funny, within 24 hours, you've had two coaches at North Adelaide that have both been sacked. So
I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, I know, it's a bit of a North Adelaide feel. I met where did I meet my wife? She, I remember, I reckon it was a Sunday at my house, and I was living with a girl at the time who was just a housemate, and I reckon she had a few of her girlfriends over, and I remember, when you know in regards to your wife, I reckon, and I still remember everything that she wore. I remember the glasses that everyone used to wear, the big bug-eyed Dior's back in the day, and I reckon the girls had a big night, and they were sort of having a little recovery day at my house, and I said to Holly, who was my housemate at the time, I said, "Who's that tall, blonde-headed girl?" And, "Oh, this is Alison," and I was just like, well, I was sold from there on in, and the rest is history.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And your footy career, tell us about some of the highs and the lows. You mentioned before, obviously, there was definitely some lows with the tarps and what have you, and back in those days. But tell us a bit more about that.
Oh, the high, I think coming in 2004 and just being through that whole experience, the pressure, I think the 2 years prelims and missing out, and the pressure that was on the club to perform and just get to the big day, just being involved in that whole year was just incredible. And being there on grand final day and experiencing that, I talked to even the guys at North Adelaide when I was there, and the younger guys who I helped coach. You never know when you get those opportunities again. I was fortunate. I got 04 and then 07, but 07 wasn't a great day. But still, the opportunity to be there, 100,000 people. Like, some people rip me for it when you go to events, or I remember being at a North Adelaide event, and one of these guys who, it was tongue in cheek, was interviewing me about that and kept saying, 119 points, blah, blah, blah. And my mindset on it is, disappointed and flat. We gave ourselves an opportunity to get there. It didn't work out on the day. Geelong were incredible.
Great.
Like, you look at the All-Australians and the AFL legends, Hall of Famers that they've got in that team was incredible.
No one had got close that day.
No way. No one. It was incredible. And, we were just had some old blokes. We had some real young guys that were sort of coming through. We're probably missing a bit of that middle-aged players, but Geelong were just ready to go. And my question back is I said, all right, I'll get everyone to sort of stand up and go, all right, sit down if you haven't played in an AFL grand final. and everyone sits down. I think one person stood up, which was Bowden Jaworski. I think he played. I can't remember who he played for, but he played in an AFL Grand Final back in the day. And it was a room of about 200 people, and I was just like, there you go. So 2 people have played in an AFL Grand Final compared to everyone else here. So that's the way I see it. But being involved in that year was just incredible. The vibe, you win and you went out and you celebrated and you had a good time and you did all those sort of things, and then you went to train, you trained hard, and just being involved was amazing. And I was just so pleased for Choco because he'd put up with so much crap over the last couple of years and people giving him the choker sign and all that sort of stuff. And, every now and then if I watch the game or if it's on TV or whatever, I'll watch it and I see him and he's giving that one down, and you get emotional watching it because all I wanted for him is he deserved to win that because he's an incredible coach. And I still hope he wish he was coaching now in the AFL and someone gave him an opportunity because he's good enough.
I'd love to see him at Port. How about Kari?
Yeah, potentially. You never know. I think he's pretty settled over in Melbourne and doing all that sort of stuff now, and I think he loves his job over there. But, he could coach his own team like today. Like, he's an incredible teacher of the game, and he knew how to push my buttons. I've had some of the biggest sprays in my life, worse than what my dad would give me after a game. But I loved that. And that's the way he knew how to push my buttons. And I remember there was a game over at West Coast. I think we played, I was playing on Mark Lacroix. And I reckon he kicked 3 goals in the first quarter on me. And one of them was from a free kick. I think I coat-hanged him. And then he kicked. He was an incredible player. Like, he was one of the hardest players I've ever played on. Like, his lateral and sideways movement for a small guy was incredible and just such a talent. And I remember Choco grabbed me, like physically grabbed me by the jumper and just said, if he touches the ball again for the rest of the game, I'm going to kill you. And I just said, yeah, no worries, Choc, done. And that just got me on the mindset, right? I think he had 7 touches and kicked 3 goals, and then he ended up with 9 touches and 3 goals for the game. So I reckon he only touched the ball twice for the rest of the game because I was just like, that's what I needed.
So focused.
Yeah, so focused. And Choco he used to get that out of me, and I just used to go, yeah, I used to love that. Where I knew some other guys on our team, if Choco did that to them, they would melt. And I won't mention names, but they would melt. So I just love that side of things. And, if I did that to one of the North Adelaide players, recently or anything like that, they would melt. And, the young generation just don't get it like we used to get it. So, trying to build resilience for those young kids is, obviously pretty important. But just what an incredible experience. I'm so lucky and grateful that I got drafted by an amazing football club.
Yeah, I was actually there in 07 as well, being a big Port supporter, and bought a ticket from a scalper on the day with a mate of mine.
Yep.
And you're right, the extra result was disappointing, but just actually being there, 100,000 people, the atmosphere, and then the day before I got to hold the cup and have a photo with it, and it's just amazing, Surj. So I absolutely agree with you. Grand finals are the best, even though it didn't work out. Yeah. So, and in terms of funny teammates, you still catch up with a few of the boys, and Bobby's a bit of a character. But who are some of the other your funny teammates and why? And did you come across some good pranks during your time as well at Port?
Yeah, no, but Ebo's probably at Port the closest guy I still sort of talk to majority of the time. Stephen Sellerpeck, and I still talk to every now and then. Steve Gillam's one of my best mates who I still talk to a lot. He was obviously there. I think he became a premiership player at Hawthorn in 2008 or one of the other premierships. I can't remember, 2008.
Yeah.
So we still talk a fair bit. But Ebo was probably the guy who was the prankster the most. Him, Toby Thurstons, and those guys used to play some pretty good pranks. I remember one time, can't remember whose car it was. I think it was Stephen Sellerpeck's car, but we wrapped the whole thing in Glad Wrap, which took about an hour or so, and put some stuff inside his car, and it took him for ages to get it out. But I remember one time rocking up to training in 2004, David Arnfield, who used to be the runner.
I know Arnie. Yep.
Arnie, he was a star, and I thought the first time I met him, this bloke is crazy. But one day at training, his car was just doing bog laps in the middle of the oval. Someone had put a brick on it in drive and just doing bog laps. And it was, one time someone put some fish in his office, and that stunk out. So plenty of stuff goes on at footy clubs, which is pretty awesome. And probably the part you miss. But the most special one is in our locker room at Port. It was pretty enclosed area and it looked like an oval. But the boys would go do weights, or we'd play a bit of like indoor cricket in this small little oval, like shaped locker room. And the boys would always put like a cup of water on the edge of the door. and they'd be playing cricket and get really noisy and loud, and then the boys would walk through the door, and then the cup of water would tip over them, and then all the boys in the locker room would erupt. And it was just little things like that. You just go, oh man, that was so cool back in the day, and you sort of want to replicate it at your own footy club. But the little things like that was awesome, and we used to do it all the time. And the little things that you miss when you're a full-time footballer, and you do the weights, you do the training, you do all that sort of stuff. But it's the banter that we used to have. I remember one day, I think I played a Friday night game against Geelong, and I had an absolute mare. I reckon I played 20 or 25 minutes. This was early 2005. And I didn't get any touches. And I rocked up on the Monday morning, and my locker was full of donuts. The whole locker. And I just thought, oh yeah, that's fair enough. But that's just the banter that we used to just, we hang on each other all the time. And Stewie Jew and a few of the boys, Stewie Cochran back in the day used to do some pranks a lot like away from the football club. And we still talk about those times, and it was great. They were great times. I had a great, childhood sort of growing up in that space to get to the AFL clubs.
That's the best.
It was amazing.
You're absolutely spot on. That's what I love most about, and miss probably the most about footy. Just actually comradeship and just the banter and the fun and that sort of thing as well. And
definitely.
Yeah, my mates always like to remind me that I got 0 touches in the grand final as well. So I had a couple other good grand finals. So you take the good with the bad, don't you?
Absolutely, you have to. Yeah. I think people focus, especially Australians, we focus too much on the negative.
Yeah.
It's just part of our society. I'm not sure why. I'm not a big fan of Americans, but American sport they can be very over the top and positive, and American people can generally be like that. And I guess I see that side of things a little bit more. I'm not generally a negative person.
You don't come across it at all.
No, I'm pretty positive, and my outlook on life is pretty good. My family came from a country that was third world country, in the former Yugoslavia, Croatia, and there was nothing there for my grandparents to do in regard post World War and stuff like that. And they came to this country, on a boat with a suitcase and nothing, and turned our family into having a really good life here. So, I appreciate every day for what it is, and for what my grandparents did, because I could still be living in Croatia on the little island where our family's from, being a fisherman or something like that, and having no goals in life, where, we come to this country, and, I just appreciate every day that I get to live here, and I'm really positive about, being an Australian and being here and see the positive side of life.
It's a great way to be. Our final question, most important question, for the Legends of Bevo Spotify playlist, what was your go-to song, Surj, before a game?
I was a big Metallica supporter. I was into Sandman.
Good choice.
I love Metallica. When I found out they were coming here, I booked tickets straight away, spent $1,000. I think $2,000 on me and my wife will go, and we'll have a great night. But it was a bit different. I used to listen to. I'm big on movies, and I used to love the old Excaliburs and stuff like that, and Conan the Barbarian and soundtracks and stuff like that. Sometimes the opera music, when it's really dramatic, gets me going a bit as well. I know that's weird, but there's a couple of songs that you just go, oh, okay, that sounds cool. You'd love to put some vision to that and some. But yeah, there's a couple of opera songs. I know there's the one in Excalibur, which is the old Sword and Stone. I can't remember who was in it back in the day, but it's in the 80s or 70s movie, and we used to watch it at home as a family. And there's this scene where they're riding through on their horses, about to go to battle, and it's just erupting. And I was just like, oh, that sounds cool. I'd like to listen to that before footy. And Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of my, growing up watching him, Predator, Conan the Barbarian, all his movies. He's one person I would love to meet and have lunch with and just pick his brain on life, and his, coming from Austria, a bit like my family, coming from a different country. He went to America, obviously we came to Australia, but just his outlook and the way he, shaped his own life in regards to his work was incredible. And, I just gravitate to those type of people. And, I used to love listening to the Conan the Barbarian soundtrack in the car on the way to footy, because that would get me in the mood to, I'm going to kill someone today on the oval. Do you know what I mean? And just used to do, I haven't said that to too many people, but I just do weird things like that. And my family would know, my brother Eric and my dad, and they'd call me, and, Conan the Barbarian's going on in the background and the soundtrack. And, oh yeah, Jake's ready to play today. I'm like, yeah, I was used to getting me wound up, and this is 3 hours before the game. So
that's great.
Yeah, but I'm definitely a heavy metal man.
Yeah, likewise.
So, yeah, Metallica's one with Pantera. I remember getting introduced to Pantera when I was 13 years old, and I was just like, oh, yeah, I love that. So, yeah, it was cool.
Jacob Surjan, thanks so much for coming on Sports Legends of Bevo.
Beautiful. Mate. Thanks for having me, Bevo. Appreciate it.